In Montenegro, the costs for maintaining a residence permit obtained on the basis of opening a company in the country have changed. Of course, we will primarily be talking about maintaining residence permits for companies that do not conduct any business activity and are set up solely for the purpose of obtaining a residence permit. Before we move on to discussing the current expenses directly, let's first look at what has caused these changes. According to local laws, a foreigner who has obtained a residence permit for work in Montenegro, including as the director of their own company, cannot have a salary of less than 450 euros. With such a salary, the tax is about 120 euros per month. In practice, foreigners often took advantage of the fact that there is no connection between the MUP and the tax office when obtaining a residence permit and declared that they would pay themselves a salary of 450 euros. After that, they would officially work at a quarter of a full-time position, pay themselves a salary 4 times lower, and accordingly pay 4 times less in taxes. In other words, they were deceiving the MUP. After obtaining a residence permit, the average foreigner would apply for child benefits and get back the 30 euros in taxes they had paid. So essentially, they were living in Montenegro for free. At the same time, everyone was using free healthcare and education. So, in essence, the Montenegrin government was supporting the foreigners who came to the country. For years, we warned our clients that this was wrong and that sooner or later this practice would come to an end, which could lead to problems with renewing their residence permits. By the way, we are one of the few accounting agencies that told clients about this. Some of our clients listened to us, probably about 40%, but most did not. And so, in 2023, a connection was established between the MUP and the tax authorities. Now, the MUP knows exactly what salary you actually paid yourself in the past. And everyone announced exactly what we had been warning people about for years, that only those who paid themselves the correct salary in the past, that is, the salary declared when obtaining the residence permit, and who did not deceive the MUP can renew their residence permit. I personally warned each accounting client, and not just once, that the time had come to live honestly. That's why I advised them to stop deceiving the MUP and to raise their salary to the level required by law. But as soon as I said it, about 40% listened to me, while 60% didn't listen. Well, let's sum up what I've just talked about. The expenses for maintaining a residence permit in Montenegro have not changed. It's just that the illegal practice has come to an end, when people were paying 4 times less tax than the legal minimum. If before, in my old articles and videos, I used to say that there could be correct and incorrect expenses, now there is no such option. Everything must be done correctly now. I hope everything is clear, and we can move on to reviewing the current expenses for maintaining a residence permit in Montenegro. The expenses of a non-operating company consist of taxes, accountant fees, and bank commissions. Well, there's also the salary you pay yourself, but I won't consider that right now because it's not really an expense. It's like you're lending your company 450 euros and then those same 450 euros are returned to you as your salary. So that's not an expense. So we won't be talking about that today. Now, let's talk about expenses. I'll start with taxes. As I just mentioned, you have to pay the company director a salary, that is, pay yourself of at least 450 euros per month. With that salary, the tax will be 120 euros per month. So the first item is tax, 120 euros per month. Accountant's fee, 75 euros plus VAT. VAT is 90 euros and 75 cents. Bank fees vary and depend on the bank. As you can see in the screenshot, I wrote some bank fee because it's always different. But as a rule, the fees do not exceed 20 euros per month. So, in total, 120 euros in taxes, plus 90.75 for accounting, plus up to 20 euros per month in bank fees, comes to 230 euros and 75 cents. One of my clients recently said, "The free ride is over." That's how he commented on the increase in expenses for maintaining a residence permit in Montenegro. Is that really the case? Let me share my opinion. In 2011, when I moved to live in Montenegro, the expenses for maintaining a residence permit were about 10 euros higher than they are now. And at that time, the euro had a completely different purchasing power compared to today. For example, real estate back then cost 1.5 times less than it does now, and groceries were almost twice as cheap. Taking inflation into account, we can conclude that in 2011, maintaining a residence permit was 1.5 times more expensive than it is now. So no, guys, the free ride still isn't over. Getting and maintaining a residence permit in Montenegro is still unbelievably cheap. And finally, let's compare it with other countries. I won't compare it with all of Europe. It's pointless. The difference in costs would be astronomical. Let's compare it with just one country, which after Montenegro is the most expensive choice for immigrants, Serbia. In Serbia, foreigners very rarely open a company because taxes in Serbia are higher than in Montenegro. Maintaining a company, because in Serbia you can't just be inactive, you can't renew your residence permit that way. In Serbia, you must have a company and it must be operational, so taxes there are of primary importance. Maintaining a residence permit to a company in Serbia is much more expensive than in Montenegro, and that's why people mostly open a sole proprietorship, which of course has a lot of drawbacks. In particular, with a sole proprietorship, entrepreneurs are liable for all obligations with all their personal assets. Nevertheless, people still open sole proprietorships. As for sole proprietorships, maintaining one in Serbia is cheaper than maintaining a company, and the minimum taxes for a sole proprietorship are over 300 euros. That is about 3 times more than in Montenegro. Other expenses, such as accounting and banking services, are comparable to those in Montenegro. So it turns out that even in the cheapest country after Montenegro, maintaining a residence permit is already significantly more expensive. Accordingly, you're saying that the free ride in Montenegro has ended, at the very least, prematurely. I hope this video was helpful. You can leave your feedback in the comments. Our main services are company registration, assistance with company formation, residence permit processing, and accounting services. Feel free to contact us.